Okay, so here we are for part 2 of the problem. We're going to go and find out what value that we need to get to a significance level of 5% or 0.05. So basically we're going to work backwards through our distribution to find out what the hypothesized proportion has to be to hit 0.05. So we're going to go and we're going to set up our equations here. We're going to calculate things out. So we're going to have the sample size is still 400. The number with the property of interest is still our unsatisfied customers at 23. The sample proportion is still going to be the number of unsatisfied divided by our sample size. So it's still going to be 5.7%. Now, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put together a new standard error of the proportion. So we're still going to be doing a one-tailed t-test. So I'll just bring that down. Now, we're going to have a different value here. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm just going to put in a dummy one for right now, and we're going to say 10%. And so we'll calculate everything off based on that, and then we'll use goal seek on the hypothesized proportion to figure out the p-value. So now the next thing that we have is the standard error of the proportion. So if we go back up here and we look at our equation, it's the square root of the hypothesized proportion times 1 minus the hypothesized divided by the sample size. So actually if we wanted to, we could come in here, and so this cell is that name, Control C, and we'll come down here to this one. We will Control V it, so we're going to name it that, and then we'll just throw a 2 at the end of it, so that way when we go back and look at this we can see what's going on. So, square root of the hypothesized proportion, which is 2 minus 1 minus the hypothesized proportion, and then we've got to divide that by our sample size, which would be up here. And so there we go. And so we start out, this standard error means nothing because we've got fake data in here anyway. We've just got some test data to start everything out. And so now we're going to calculate our t-statistic, which is going to be our sample proportion minus the hypothesized proportion divided by the standard error of the proportion. And so that's going to be here. Now this number is the same as this one up here, so I'm just going to grab that one just to make things so we've got the words in there. And then we're going to divide that by the standard error. And that one doesn't have the name. We can go and do the same thing. Go Control C here. Once again, this will make our notes a little bit, ooh, I didn't want to do that. Notice it just automatically went there because I didn't rename it, which is good because I meant to put the 2 in. And so there we go. We've renamed that cell. So we're going to come back in here and we are just going to click on standard error of the proportion. So now we have that in there too. And so now we're going to go to our p-value. We're going to calculate it out the same way. Our statistic z value, and we're going to go continuous. So let's go here, equals norm.s.dst, because we are doing the normal distribution. We didn't give that one a name, but that's fine. I think we can figure that one out. And so that gives us a p-value of 0.446. That's quite large. And so actually we can go back and just put in this value, and everything should be the same. I have made an error because those numbers are not the same through there. So I forgot an error in the equation, so let's go look at it. And there seems to be an error with our standard proportion. Oh, I have a minus in there. And so if we go up here and look at the standard of the proportion, that should be a multiplication. So it's always nice to use the dummy values of something you know. So there we go. Everything matches. Because if I wouldn't have gone and checked that, I wouldn't have known that things were wrong. And so it's always good to double check that. So now what I want to do is I want to set this p-value to 0.05. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into data. I've got all of my stuff here. This is a what-if analysis, and I want to use goal seek. So I want to set cell. I've already picked this one, so I want my p-value. I want to set that. I want it to come up with a value of 0.05. And you can tell Excel, hey, you can change that cell. And say, okay. And you see it does the iterations. It runs all of the numbers. And it still has not found 0.5. It's actually pretty close, but I'm fine with it. So we've got a target value of 0.05, so I got 0.0049, which gets us right to where we're going. So if I wanted statistical evidence at the 5% significance level, I would have to say instead of 7.5%, it's basically 7.99%. So if she goes back and says that we've reduced it to 8% or less, she has significant statistical evidence at that p-value of 0.05 or 5% level that we've reduced things to 8% or below. So it's only a 0.5% off, but it gets you a much tighter significance level. And there we go. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk to you next time.